What's up, real MVPs? Ricky Widmer here, back for another edition of MVP Sports Live right here on twitch.tv/MVP Vids. Remember, if you ever missed the stream live or you ever missed the show live, we're on YouTube, MVP Sports. I'm back, like I always am, with my beautiful co-host, Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
Dave, we're at the end of a week. We have made it to our first official week of MVP Sports Live.
Some consistency for me. That's surprising consistency. We're going to do a thing, and we actually did it.
Remember when we first started the fast break? I do, because I was at the time working at the college radio station doing like producer baseball games, running the board, and you were like, I want to do a basketball podcast. And I was like, yeah, sure, come on up after one or before one. We'll fucking record one. And we did the LaMarcus Aldridge signs with the San Antonio Spurs. And I think we did 2 more or 3 more after that, where we talked about Carmelo, we talked about DeAndre Jordan, and then we talked about the schedule getting released, and then nothing. Just dropped off the face of the fucking earth until...
Didn't they go on like vacation or something then after that?
I don't know what happened, but because of something... it seemed like you lost interest. It wasn't like a losing interest in doing it. It was a losing interest in going into the studio to do it is what I thought it was. And then obviously Sean and Phil picked it back up and Dave's like, I need to come back.
Turns out the best way to get me to do something is spite.
I know how you work. I know how you work, much like you know how to egg me on and how I work. But we're going to get into a ton of topics today. NBA, college football, UFC. But before we get into everything, little bit of housekeeping. Couple things today. Number 1, podcast services are coming. Thank you for your patience. Number 2, Dave is going to have a special video at some time, so make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. The video you're working on is... players in the bubble, right? Like your top players in the bubble?
It's not top players. Think of it like I'm giving shout outs to guys who don't normally get the recognition.
Okay.
And it'll be kind of a recap as this lead up to the playoffs has happened.
Nice.
I'm going to try to get it recorded tonight. Well, it's probably going to be happening tomorrow since I'm going on vacation on Sunday. But if I can get it done, I'll send it over and we'll see what happens.
Nice.
But yeah. Just short highlight a couple players.
So I wanted to get that out there. Also, starting August 24th will be part of our draft coverage, because I know there's been some YouTube comments of like, whoa, wait, I've seen MVP Sports Live. Are you guys not talking about the draft anymore? We are still doing draft content. Do not worry your little heads out there in the YouTube worlds and the Twitch worlds. August 24th, we'll start our team fits videos. More on that to come later. And then for housekeeping, if you have not already, if you're a sports fan who likes gaming and entertainment, check out our other channel on YouTube, MVP Entertainment. That link should be in our info, or you go to our YouTube page. It's there. You can find it, MVP Entertainment. The little yellow logo is where we are at. But Dave, we've got a jam-packed show, and we're actually switching things up. I think what we might do is during the NBA season... we got to pick, we can do it whatever day we want. Probably not Monday when there's overlap with the NFL when their season starts up again.
Yeah, that'll be a pretty heavy news
day. Like, for right now, let's just say NBA Friday is what we'll call it. And we're starting off with NBA topics today. And the first one we're looking at is, I believe this was a team yesterday's show. You were like, we haven't talked about them yet, but we will be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yes.
And the thing that I wanted to talk about with the Bucks was, so every single time we've talked about an Eastern Conference team, we've kind of said where it's like, oh, maybe the Bucks should be worried about them. And Giannis came out and said that the biggest obstacle that the Bucks are facing are themselves. So I wanted to just pitch the question to you. What is the biggest obstacle for the Milwaukee Bucks?
Honestly, I don't know that he's wrong in the fact that the Bucks, when they're working, they're a well-oiled machine. I mean, you have to give the credit to Coach Bud for finding the right pieces to fit his system. And it is like clockwork out there when you see full court attacking Giannis, In the half court, you have Giannis drawing so much tension, being able to dive in the lane and be able to kick out, the ball movement, the fantastic sharpshooters on the outside. It really is just a really interesting system that they have that they're able to do because of what Giannis provides for them as that ultimate wing out there who can ball handle, score, drive. The only thing obviously he's still missing or working on, I should say, is his shot.
Mm-hmm.
But when they're working, I mean, they've got a 50, 40, 90 monster out there next to him in Chris Mid. Obviously Bledsoe not been there, but like time it'll take. I wonder, matchup wise, they definitely run into a couple interesting ones at the top of the Eastern Conference. We talked about Boston. We talked about Toronto. I think that the Heat, even though in that game was a tale of two halves, the Heat are always a great competition for them. So I want to watch that one. If there's a series, that would be incredible. Really, it just comes down to like, you go for the game plan of, do you stop Giannis or do you stop his team? You have two options. Giannis can go for 45 and the Bucks can lose, or Giannis can go for 20 and have some poor shooting splits, and you just double him and you force the guys like Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton, Dante, like any George Hill, like you got to force that support cast to make shots, and they might have really good looks and they are all excellent shooters, but who are you going to count on to make those shots when it comes down to it?
Yeah, and I mean, I've said numerous times this week, in our first week here of MVP Sports Live, whenever we've talked about the East, that Giannis isn't the problem. Bud's not the problem. The problem for this team, if you even call it a problem, is what type of performance am I going to get from everyone not named Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Yeah.
And when Chris Mid, when Lopez, even like if a Kyle Korver lights it up in a game, that's great. That's going to be just better news for the Bucks. But can they get that night in and night out? Because like I look at games, like I'm looking back to the Nets game against the Bucks, and if the Nets played the Bucks in a series of 7, do I expect the Nets to win 4 games? No. But
they'd be lucky if they won 1 game.
But like I look at that game, or I look at the game against the Rockets. Maybe that's even a better game to highlight because Harden and Russ were playing out of their minds. The rest of that team had a great performance, and the Rockets are kind of in the same situation of, can a PJ Tucker, can a Austin Rivers kind of help out Harden and Westbrook?
Yeah.
But I look at those 2 games and I go, are those the Milwaukee Bucks we're going to see when the playoffs come on? Or am I going to see the Milwaukee Bucks that played the Miami Heat, where you said it's a tale of 2 halves, but there were changes that were made and they won the game because of them? Where the Nets game I saw, the big highlight was Giannis getting mad, almost getting into a fight. Yeah. And they they lost the game in the end. And I know you had mentioned the day after was like, oh, well, if they would have played their starters more, they probably would have won that game. But I still wonder, which Bucks team are we going to see when the playoffs roll around after the 14th?
I want to lean towards the better Bucks. But again,
optimistically, you would want to.
Yeah, well, we watched Eric Bledsoe choke in the playoffs last year. We've watched Chris Middleton step up and rise to the occasion. But it's at second tier of guys. And I know there's only, when we're in deep playoff run mode, you're going to get, your bench guys are going to get 7 to 10 minutes. Like that's their window. That's when they have to shine. And you look at guys like Ersan, Mo Williams, not Mo Williams. Jesus, what decade am I in? Marvin Williams.
Mo Williams.
George Hill, Pat Con, like those guys are elite at one role, and they have to absolutely excel during that short time, because the on-off numbers for this team are actually really encouraging. It looks like they can maintain that momentum with Giannis off the court while he's on the court. Like obviously there's a dip, but like they're just such a good team, and they are filled with such good shooters, and they've got a handful of wing defenders. Like they are a really great mix, and really I think what it's just going to come down to is their mentality. Can they stay engaged in the games? Can they continue to make that extra pass to get the wide open guy instead of being baited into situations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's you brought up Giannis getting frustrated. We see it when Giannis goes up against Embiid. There's some mental play. They are talking, they're yapping the entire time. And you feel like there's an extra little bit of like heat going on there between those guys. And I think it does get personal at times. So I think if people can challenge them and get them out of their comfort zone, that's when it gets dangerous. When Giannis stops thinking and just plays, then you can make the case that he can make mistakes. If you bait him into foul trouble, Giannis means he's on the bench, means you have a better opportunity to win that game.
I'm going to compare this Bucks team to the old Oklahoma City Thunder teams that we used to see when Kevin Durant was there. The only difference between them is Giannis doesn't have a Brody. Like, Chris Midd's good, but I wouldn't say Chris Midd isn't the Robin to Giannis that Brody was to KD. But
is that because he's not a ball handler, or
maybe?
Like what aspect of the game are you looking for more out of him in? Because I don't disagree with you. It's something that I've heard a lot, actually.
I think I would go off, and yet again, this is me not looking at the stats yet. Probably, like, if I had the time to research this right now.
He's a disgusting scorer.
He is.
He's an above average defender.
But whose averages were better? Because, like, my brain wants to say, and maybe it's because of the eye test, like, tells me this, and the stats sometimes don't line up with it, but that Brody had better stats. But yet again, I don't know that off the top of my head right now. But maybe you're right. It's maybe because
efficiency-wise, he never did.
handler.
But as far as filling the entire box score,
yeah,
he probably did.
But the reason why I make this analogy is I feel like Giannis and that KD make these teams very similar in the fact that the Bucks have a pressure that no other team in the East has right now. Because think about the two that we've been talking about. Like, you could talk about the Heat 2, and the Heat don't have this, the Pacers don't have this, the Sixers do, but it's self-imposed. Celtics and Raptors don't. Is everyone's putting the pressure on, well, if the Bucks don't win the title this year or next year, Giannis is walking. And the Raptors don't have to deal with that. Kawhi already left, and they're still as good as they were last year. The Celtics, they locked down Brown and Tatum. They don't have to worry about the storylines of their young stars, the ones that they've homegrown, walking away. The Pacers have Vic trade rumors, but yet again, like, trade rumors I think are self-imposed. That's why I said it with the 76ers. We've talked about trade rumors with...
We're about to hear Domantas Sabonis trade rumors after TJ Warren dropping 40 a night during the bubble.
And that's why I say the Heat are the same way, because, like, Jimmy ain't going anywhere. Jimmy likes Miami. Jimmy's balling. When Jimmy's happy, the Heat are happy.
Great Seinfeld reference.
But I mean,
Jimmy don't like that.
Like, yeah, Jimmy don't like that. But that's why I feel like there's an extra pressure on this team, and that might be the obstacle, the Giannis obstacle.
He's got to get over the bubble of it. LeBron winning his first title,
because like the Thunder got to the title with KD, and that's when LeBron won. But like, think about it this way. Like, I feel like if this team goes up against the Raptors or the Celtics, but I'll say the Raptors, and loses to them again in the playoffs in order to go to the finals, that might be just as daggering as when the Thunder couldn't get over the hump of the Warriors. Yeah. And I feel like that's the true obstacle. We've got to just get over this pressure of we've got to win one or else Giannis is going to walk.
Giannis to the north? Is that what's about to happen?
I mean,
is Kyle Lowry going to call Giannis after the game and be like, we need you?
Please no. Like, everyone's talking Giannis to the Warriors, but that's just the easy one.
Giannis to the Warriors, Giannis to the Heat, and Giannis to the Rockets are the three I've heard the most of.
Yeah.
We'll see. But honestly, let me end it on this question then. Do you think the Bucks are looking at themselves as favorites to go to the championship this year in the East? I know what the record says, but I'm saying, do you think that they view themselves as the favorites going through the Eastern Conference playoffs right now?
I hope they don't. And the reason why I say that is I think they do think of themselves as the favorite because they're the number one in the East. But if I was a Bucks fan, I would hope they won't, because the one thing that I've seen that this team doesn't have, that a team like the Warriors, when they were on their title runs, had, is the Warriors were easily the best team in the West. They were easily the best team record-wise, best team on paper. But think about how many times the Warriors had their backs against the wall and were able to, like, usually you see teams that think of the favorites, they get put in that situation, kind of like a boxer fighting. He gets hit by that right punch and you're like, whoa, I didn't expect that. Or even we see that in UFC fights all the time. And then they're on their back feet. The Warriors were never on their back feet. They could switch it and go, all right, we're the underdog here, and kind of play like we see underdogs do. That's why I hope the Bucks don't, because they need that switch of, if the Raptors come out and hit them with a 1-2 punch, they need to be able to switch their mentality and be able to say, all right, we're playing as the underdog now. And I think that would benefit them more in the playoffs than
gotta act hungry. They ain't won shit yet.
You gotta act hungry. But we're going to move on. Before we get on into the next team, we're doing a segment a little bit early this time because it fits in to the NBA stuff. We usually do it around our NBA topics, but this is our weekly, or I should say it used to be weekly,
it is our
daily segment where we like to give love to certain players from around the sports world. These are the dampest of dudes, the moistest of men, the soggiest of shooters, the mistiest of misses. I can add that one now after yesterday. These are our Wet Boy Awards, and we usually give 3. Dave gives 1, I give 1, and then our third one comes from our patrons, the silver, gold, and platinum memberships. Patreon.com/MVPvids is how you get that done. But Dave, I will let you go first as always. Who's your wet boy for August 7th, 2020?
Keeping it real simple here. Dollar Dame. He went out there and shot lights out.
I'm going to change this really quick. Sorry, Dave.
I was going to say that was yesterday.
That is yesterday's. Mine, it should have changed. It's going to change for you. Don't worry.
That's embarrassing.
But, there it is. There it is. I might have to do that with each one now because it did not change. But yes, there it is. Dollar Dame.
Dollar Dame went off. The Blazers had a phenomenal showing last night. Credit to them. They had multiple players I could have chosen from. Everyone looked really good out there. And again, we talked about it yesterday. This Trailblazers team is legit, and they are going for the playoffs. And when they get there, good luck. They are not going out easy. This will not be your standard 1-8 matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it this time. I think that the Blazers are even a team. I'll say it again. If they match up against the Lakers, picking the Blazers in 7 to upset the Lakers.
I don't even know if it's going to take 7.
It might not take 7, especially
that's the crazy thing. If the way the Lakers look right now.
If Dame, Nurkic, and even Melo are playing like we've seen them play in recent games, it might take 5. Probably 6, but I throw the 5.
And again, if the Lakers look as poor as they have, I know we talked about them trying to get to the playoffs healthy and just, make sure everybody's going to be in good shape, but it might be time for a concern.
Yeah, we've talked about we're going to talk about the West and kind of something about the Blazers a little bit after Wet Boys, but for me, we're going from the hardwood to the dirt of the diamond, Dave. I'm going back to the MLB today because I was looking through. There was some.
Are we on dirt? Are we on turf?
We're on dirt. We're on dirt because we're going to Cleveland. I'll get into that in a little bit, but I had a couple circling through. There was Kevin Newman of the Pirates had a walk-off pinch hit. You had the one of the players for the Giants had a hit after opting out for coronavirus. It was his first game of the year. But I got to give my love, and I hope the Wet Boy card works. Nope, it did not work. That's yesterday. So for each one, I'm going to have to change this beforehand. You're just seeing how the sausage is made right now on a beautiful Friday.
We'll clean it up next week, we promise.
Yeah. But I'm giving love to Jose Ramirez. And the reason why is this dude went 3 for 5 in the game. They won 13-0, by the way.
Jesus Christ.
He went 3 for 5, had a trick. Well, he started the game off in the first with a home run. Then in the
Okay.
next at bat later on, he hit a triple.
So we're thinking cycle.
He only had 3 hits, so it wasn't the cycle. But
You're right,
he
Ben.
did go 3 for 5, 4 runs, 4 RBIs, an on base percentage of 1.015. Ridiculous. Got to give it to Jose Ramirez. Yes, he was playing the Reds, and the Reds kind of an easier team, but hey, you're playing in the MLB. These are the best guys in baseball. Jose Ramirez getting the love from me on this day.
He absolutely deserves it after that. That sounded like a massive appearance, and also just kind of a joke of a game. I mean, once you hit 10 run, like 10, yeah, it doesn't even matter anymore.
I'm gonna look it up really quick. This box score of let's see. Can I pull up the box score? The ESPN app sucks. I'm gonna keep saying it, but like I'm on my tablet, so it's like it's what I've got.
Oh yeah, that one is weird.
Let's see. Can I look at yesterday's games? Yeah, so they won 13-0. Come on. Loading is tough for this app. Yeah, so it was by the seventh inning, it was 4-0, 6-0. Yeah, so it was 3-0 going into the 7th. They scored 10 runs in the 7th alone.
Very
so
nice.
it ballooned in that 7th inning. Yeah. For our wet boys, though, I'm going to be honest. We are actually doing a tier 2 wet boy for the patrons because most of the votes were Dollar Dame.
Oh.
Dave already picked Dollar Dame. So I had to go to the next one that got the most votes. And this is going back to the NBA. This is a guy that we have not given a wet boy to this team since we have started MVP Sports Live. It is not going to be Michael Porter Jr. I was preparing for that because it's happened twice before. But this one is a Sacramento King, Dave. Bogdan Bogdanović. Didn't have a ton of rebounds and assists, but like you said, he was on fire. He was 6 of 9 from beyond the arc, finished with 35 points in that win.
Yeah, no, he pretty much single-handedly won that game. Like, it was a dirty backcourt. Him and De'Aaron Fox. I mean, there's a reason Buddy Hield is riding the Pine Pony, and he has looked awful since the restart, by the way. I don't know if you've noticed, but...
Buddy, that Kings team, we watched a game or two with them of their restart games, and I remember you and I going, it was more of like a Luke Walton bashing.
Absolutely.
But it was more of like, this team don't look good.
They don't. They really don't. Like, Bogdan... This is a bounce back game for him because he shot awful in his prior game. So and literally they asked him in like the post game, they're like, what went differently for you this game? He's like, honestly, it was a miracle shot. Like the announcers had said before, he, I think was like 1 of 14 and his last shot was like a miracle heave that went in. Jesus. So he's like, you might as well call him like 0 of 13 yesterday. And he's like, they just went in today. That's the only difference. I didn't do anything different. Like same shot. They just didn't go in yesterday.
Sometimes the shots are going to fall. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Especially if you got that hard rim like it was the first night.
Dude,
between the
there was a conspiracy about that.
Yeah, the rim gate, baby. Rim gate. Baby. But let's move on into our second NBA topic of the show. I said we we're going to mention the Blazers a little bit. They kind of relate into this because we're going back to the West, Dave. We're going back to the 8th seed. We've talked about the Blazers. We've talked about the Memphis Grizzlies. I feel like we talked about the Spurs, or maybe we've mentioned the Spurs in different conversations because they're all intertwined. But today, our patron Alexis is going to be happy because we're zeroing in on his team, led by Devin Booker, the Phoenix Suns. And the Suns have sneakily moved into, I think they're, half a game now? Behind the Trailblazers. They're either a game or a game and a half. I'll look at that while you're talking. But this is a team since the restart that has won every game but one. Their only game, or no, they've won every game.
I'll say they've won every game. They have not lost since the restart.
They've won every game. They just beat the Pacers last night. And I want to ask you, is this a team that can kind of just slide their way into that 8th seed, and are they going to be the team to take on the Lakers in the first round?
That's a not so fast.
Double not so fast.
I love what they're stringing together right now in Phoenix. I think hell of a team, and this is what we've been waiting all year to see, because obviously they started the year off missing Ayton, missing Rubio, then missing Oubre. Like it's a chain effect of people not being on the court at the same time.
Yeah.
Very similar to what the Chicago Bulls had, but we were a much worse team with a much worse coach. And I think that it's awesome that the Suns are doing this, and I think they've got a real shot at the 9th spot. I think that the Grizzlies, had they lost today, I was almost going to guarantee it. Be like, Blazers are 8, Suns are 9. That's how the playoff picture is going to look. That's going to be your playing game.
So I'm going to interject really quick. The Grizzlies are winning. They're probably going to win. 2 minutes left. They're up 119-90.
Yeah.
And the Spurs have already won. So because of that game, the standings are now different, where Portland is half a game behind Memphis. They'll now be a game behind Memphis. The Spurs are now a game behind Portland, and now the Suns are a game and a half behind the Portland Trailblazers.
It's a tough ask, but I think that they could continue to run the table in the bubble. Like, the Suns are one of those teams where I'm just like, they're clicking on all cylinders and they look really good. Like Devin Booker knocking down shot, game winner in the face of Kawhi Leonard, in the face of Paul George. I mean, it was awesome.
The little head laying down, just picking up the head. Oh, the remote's all the way over there.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And it shows that they can hang. And that's one of the best things about it, is like, look, if they can go out there against one of the best teams in the Western Conference, one of the best teams in the league, and have a performance like that, then they can do it against anybody. And I think that's the thing. It's offensively, they're so gifted. It's just defensively, situationally, they need to lock it down. There are some dumb mistakes out there. They've got a bunch of young talent. I love the future of the team. It's just, can they overcome that gap of a game and a half in the remaining 4 games? Is it 4 games left?
Yeah, 4 games. I was going to get to who they're playing next.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So I think 3 of these games are very winnable. There's only one that I could see as a loss, but yet again, they've won every game. The next game they play is against Miami, which, because of their defensive woes, unless they're going to be red hot, pun intended, it's basically Suns and Heat. Which one's going to be red hot? And the pun is totally intended there.
I get
on both sides. Then they got the Thunder, which the Thunder can win that game. But yet again,
they just dismantled the Thunder today. I'm sorry, the Thunder just got dismantled today by the Grizzlies.
But they've also beat the Lakers, but that was about LeBron, so take that little grain of salt with it. So that's like a toss-up. The 76ers, to me, that should be a win for them. I don't even know. And then the Dallas Mavericks, who are a good team, but as long as you keep it close by the end, you'll pull it out against Dallas. That's kind of like how it goes, is Dallas can't close games.
Okay, calm it down.
And I mean, Devin Booker can close games.
Look, it'd be funny.
What? Double game winning shots?
No, I'm saying if Philly started winning all these games without Ben Simmons. It's like,
the Ben's trade rumors start a popping.
That's what's going to happen. Yeah. But no, I agree with you. I mean, they have very winnable games for the rest of their schedule, so it'll be interesting to see. But I don't know. It's Memphis's spot to lose. If the Spurs get jumped, they get jumped. They're the least exciting team, but also potentially the most deserving team. Just to keep the streak alive.
Do you think we've written off the Memphis Grizzlies too soon? Because they're gonna win today. Unless they implode on themselves.
No, it's over.
But their next 3 are Raptors, Celtics, Bucks. So that's their next 3.
Yeah, they could go 0 for 3 in those games. God, I mean, this will be Memphis's first win of the bubble. Anthony Tolliver getting 26 minutes a game is the worst thing. I don't understand it. But because of lineups, they have to have him out there for spacing. Brandon Clark just doesn't have the shot in his game yet that they're comfortable with. So he can't be in the starting lineup anymore. But I don't know, man. It's asking a lot of a very young team to do this. But this is basically playoff experience for them. Yeah. It's like that crunch time, that bubble time it's a different grind. So I don't know, one way or the other, it's great for this team. I just don't know that, you're going to get another Brooks game where he goes for like 25, and then you're getting another one where he goes for like 12 on 25 shots. So it's,
And that's why where I see it, where it's like, with me, I am writing off the Memphis Grizzlies because of their last 3.
You just get to chase. I'm like, I'm going to play nicely around it. And
No, I do.
They're
done.
They're done.
I don't see them beating the Raptors. The only way they beat the Bucks is if the Bucks are like, well, you know what? The 14th, we're going to give all the starters the game off.
Yeah, I mean, they could do what they did against the Nets and play the starters for half a game or a quarter, and then done.
So 1 and 2 is the best I see. I don't see them beating the Raptors. I don't see them beating the Celtics. The question for me becomes then is it's a race between the Spurs and the Suns for this spot, because I think that the Trailblazers are still going to keep doing what they do. Dalla Dame is going to be lighting it up. Nurkic is still going to be on fire. If Melo can keep getting in the time machine and going back to a Melo I have not seen. Like the Melo, I'll say I have not seen since New York. But even I almost wanted to say Denver with some of the shots that he's hitting. It's going to be who wants it more, the Spurs or the Suns, and the Spurs are a much more well-coached team. That's how I should put it.
They're better coached, and they are veteran
heavy.
They have good veterans mixed in. Between DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gay.
DeMar DeRozan. And I mean, the rest of theirs is, so they finished their 4th game today. They won it. They've only got 3 left, obviously, while they're a half game above the Suns. They've got New Orleans on Sunday, and then Houston, Utah, where Utah they've already won. So, I mean, it was only by 8, so take that as you may. It could go the other way. Good. Houston, I think, could be a loss because Houston's playing really good right now, and the Pelicans could be a win. That was one that, that's a game we saw. Didn't that open up the NBA season? Didn't we see, wasn't that Spurs Pelicans? No, I'm thinking something else. No, that was, Was there a Spurs Pelicans game we watched where it was Zion's first game? I thought that was it, but maybe my memory is
this week of basketball has just been like 5 games a day is insane. Let's put it that way.
I thought that I'm talking about pre-coronavirus.
Pre-corona.
Yeah, because I thought that we watched it at the studio with Sean. We watched the ending of the game, and it was like a crazy back and forth game between the Pels and the Spurs. But
that seems familiar, yeah.
But that's the race I think comes down to is the Blazers, I think, will be 8. It's who's going to be 9 for that play-in tournament. Will it be the Spurs? Will it be the Suns?
Will it be the Grizzlies?
I
know
I'm not going to do that to
Dave's not going to be the Grizzlies.
Dave's not going to. It's basically the meme of like the ski instructor from South Park. You're not going to have a good time if you start talking that way. But we'll do it now because we usually do it at the end of the show. That's where the basketball stuff is. But Dave's Corner. Anything from yesterday's game we didn't talk about today that you want to give some loves to in Dave's Corner for today?
August 6th. We already talked about Bogdanovic's amazing 3-point display. Dalla Dame got a wet boy for hitting 11 threes in a game. It just seems like the 3-point ball is critical to the bubble, and I think every team's putting a lot more emphasis on it. Credit to Houston. I think they shot like 60 of them in that Lakers game. Like I said, the Milwaukee-Miami game, if you want to watch how to slow down the Bucks, the first half of that Miami defense, they played great defense. They antagonized Giannis, and they got him in foul trouble early. Great job there. Clippers-Dallas, honestly, was pretty much what we expected. I guess credit to Zubac for coming back and redeeming himself. Yeah. He had a perfect game from the field. I think he shot 10 of 10 from the field. Perfect at the line. I think he had like 21 and 10. It was one of a handful of like perfect games in the NBA. So credit to him. It was good of him to come back.
So let's move on. We're going from the NBA to a little bit of UFC. That's my.
Is this old timey Irish?
It's kind of painting happy trees. But it was announced today via Dana White, obviously, that we have 2 title fights set for UFC 2055, and this is going to be all the way in November, Dave, November 21st, right after you turn the wonderful age of 31. We will have, Dana White was on ESPN Friday and announced this. We're going to have 2 flyweight championship matches. The first one on the guy side is going to be the flyweight champion of Davison Figueiredo versus Cody Garbrandt, the former bantamweight champion. And then on the women's side, one of my favorite, I almost said wrestlers, favorite fighters in the champion in Valentina Shevchenko. She's going to take on the challenger of Jennifer Maia. Any thoughts on these 2 fights? I know we've seen with Sean a couple good Cody Garbrandt fights.
Look.
That's one, like, these are 2 fights, like Garbrandt and Shevchenko. I just love to watch them work.
I agree. Cody Garbrandt is possibly the most gifted fighter with no brain at times. Like, you knock him once, and then the brain turns off, and he's like, you punch me, I punch you harder. And it's just shot for shot, and they will trade left, right. And it's so annoying because he exploded on the scene. He got an early title shot, and he capitalized on it. Yeah. And he embarrassed the champ. He embarrassed the champ on pay-per-view. And then, he basically got rolled out by his mentor, and he got rocked. People started questioning his chin. He's someone who, lightning quick hands. I mean, he has some of the fastest hands, throws hard, and he absolutely looked elite in his last fight. So with him changing weight classes, do I expect him to continue to look elite? I don't think he skips a beat. I think he comes in here and is able to pull it out. I don't know. I'm putting him down. I'm putting Cody No Loves in for my win on that one. And then, like you said, Shevchenko versus Maia. Until I see differently, Shevchenko, like, that's something.
I'm trying to think. I think that the fight that I'm trying to think what the last fight with Shevchenko I watched, because it had to be 2019. I think it was the one. Oh, was it the February one? It might have. Yeah, no, that was it. It was her last fight in February, because that was the Jones Reyes pay-per-view. Just watching her work is amazing. And that was a fight where I just remember, like, it's not that I remember what happened in the fight. It's one of those, like, you remember what you were doing when you were watching the fight. And that was when we were playing Classic WoW, and I was in Dustwell and Marsh while I was watching that. Like, I remember exactly what I was doing, killing Murlocs, while watching her beat Caitlyn in that fight. I'm not going to try to butcher that last name. What? Cook again? February
8th, 2020.
Yeah, the UFC 247. Jones Reyes. That was the last fight I saw. And like, I like her, watching her work. Like you said, Cody, it's like he gets hit in the face and it's like,
it's a challenge.
Shuts off, where it's like, I'm going to try to punch you as hard as humanly possible because you punched me in the face.
You punch me, I punch you. You punch me, I punch you. Like that, it just turns into that mentality. And there's literally a fight where he does that, and it's just like, you don't win those.
No, you don't win them often.
He is, again, uber talented. Like this, I call him a kid, but like he can go.
He looks like a kid.
He's just annoying in the fact that he could be a great, but like he's got to get out of his own head. Excellent coaching needs to continue to happen and scream at him and keep him on track, because when he's on track, good luck.
So we're going to move on into college football now. And this is kind of two separate things, but we're going to bring them together and kind of piece them up in the timestamps. The first one, although they're three separate articles, they're all going to be the same. We're not going to talk about each team individually. We have more opt-outs, Dave. Another day, more coronavirus, more opt-outs. And
I'm shocked people don't want to get exposed to the coronavirus.
So the three teams we have today, the first one are the Maryland Terrapins. So their transfer quarterback, Tulia Tungaviola, which I believe is Tua's brother, was granted immediate eligibility for Maryland. Great news for them. But 6 players. You've got lineman Austin Fountain, Johnny Jordan, defensive lineman in Jalen Alexander, DB Vincent Filth, and linebacker TJ Kutai, along with quarterback Josh Jackson.
Yep.
Not playing. You also had a wide receiver for the Purdue Boilermakers, receiver Rondale Moore, basically say, I'm done. I'm going to focus on the draft. One of the receivers we're going to see in the NFL. And then also North Carolina, a team we talked about just yesterday because they were 19th in the U.S. Today coaches polls. They had players DJ Ford, Bryce Watt, and Javon Terry, 3 of their defensive backs, all saying, I don't care what our secondary looks like now.
Yeah.
We're out of here. So, like, for you, I know you mentioned it's a shocker that players don't want to risk their lives.
It's snowballing.
I ask you every day, and it seems like it's going to get old real fast if it has not already. How quickly do we hit the point where most players opt out and we're not going to have a college season?
I think we got a couple weeks, no problem. I would not be surprised if they get in a game. Really, it's just waiting for that first big domino to go. With the NBA, it was Rudy Gobert. And then it was like, shit, let's figure out who they talked to. Let's figure out who they were around.
Unless you're the MLB.
Multiple groups. With the NCAA football, I mean, they're just the amount of players, the amount of coaches, the amount of staff all in such a small confined space. Plus you have the opposing team. Plus you have everybody they went to class with.
Yep.
Like it's just,
Jesus Christ. Much. I didn't even think about that. Everyone they went to class with. Well,
I'm assuming these people are going to class.
Yeah. No, maybe but even if one of them does, it's everyone they went to class with, then that one person that was in a history class with them, everyone then they went to class with, and they went to, like, it just, that's how a spread works, Ricky.
That's how epidemiology.
But it's just, this will not be the last time we talk about players opting out, and that kind of segues us into a conference we have criticized for no reason, really. It's just because they're really good at football, and we don't expect them to take. They're really good at football, and we don't expect them to take this disease seriously because their governors don't. So why would they? The SEC. They're in the SEC. Also, one of them had Mike Pence speak at their school about why schools need to reopen, and he didn't sound smart at all. But this isn't a politics show. The SEC, though, has set protocols, Dave, for this week. Here's what ESPN's Alex Scarborough writes. He says, the SEC will require 2 coronavirus tests per week, and coaches will be required to wear a face mask or neck gaiter on the sidelines at all times during football games. The conference announced Friday as a part of its medical protocol. Coaches and players who are not competing will be required to wear a mask or neck gaiter that must cover both the nose and the mouth, such that neither nostril nor the tip of the nose are visible. Competing players must wear a neck gaiter during timeouts and when conferring with coaches on the sideline. Players will be tested 6 days and 3 days before a game, meaning tests typically will take place Sundays and Wednesdays. A twice weekly testing requirement also exists for other sports considered high risk, such as soccer and volleyball. Thoughts on these protocols set by the SEC for their football season?
It's dumb and it's to save face, because when you aren't under scrutiny of national TV, how are you behaving? And that's the thing. They're setting a standard for when the cameras are on, you will look this way, you will behave this way.
But how's it going to look in practice? That's what you're saying.
But the other, outside of that 4-hour period, are you treating it seriously? Are you still covering your mouth? Are you still covering your nose? Are you still keeping your distance? Are you still taking all the precautions to keep these players safe, to keep the coaching staff safe? That's why I get angry, is because this is clearly just a, I don't want to say it's a publicity thing, but it's how we can say, well, what we've said, they're doing it and we're keeping our players safe, and here's the guidelines to even see it. Well, yeah, that's on game day. But like, can you enforce anything on the campus? Can you force these players to, be safe, not go anywhere?
Well,
Sam in our comment section bringing up that Louisville might have had an outbreak with 30 players from their team on an off-campus party.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's. I haven't looked into that one yet. I've not heard anything about that, but if that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised, because again, kids are in college. Like, what do you expect?
Like, they're gonna go to parties. They're gonna.
Yes,
Let's see. The last thing I'm seeing on Louisville, is nothing pertaining to it, from any sources. So that might be hearsay at this point.
Okay.
But, from a day ago, Louisville men's soccer. Yeah, that
3
was
players.
it. Yeah, 3
Okay.
players for throwing a party that led to an outbreak. So it was the soccer team that threw a party that led to
29
an
Louisville
outbreak.
student athletes tested positive.
Yeah.
So they are not all on the soccer team.
Okay. I mean, the soccer players were just the ones who threw the party. Obviously, it's not
men's
just-
soccer. Yeah, yep. And they suspended all team-related activities for its men's soccer, women's soccer, field hockey, volleyball. 29 team members, 4 teams had tested positive. Even more student athletes from other sports were reportedly quarantined due to exposure to said virus.
Well, and that's like the thing that I think of when you were like, well, what are they doing off the camera? I think it's a similar problem to what we see at the political level, where think of it this way. The SEC Board of Governors and their conference chancellor, or whatever they call him, commissioner, everyone's got a different term for it.
Yeah.
But he's like the president, right? And he can basically say, this is how it is. This is like we're just going to set this up for all the schools. You got to do this. But they're not. They're saying, okay, this is some guidelines. But the other stuff, like how to keep your players safe at practices, we're going to let the schools decide what's best. It's kind of like the same way that we're seeing here with the president, like, oh, we're going to let each state, Illinois doesn't want to reopen, but Florida does. Okay, Florida can. I'm not going to basically say that they cannot. That's what I think we're seeing here, where the SEC needs to come out. And my biggest thing when reading it, you brought up a great point of on the camera, off the camera. Mine was like with the neck, they say a gaiter, but like the sleeve is what I'm going to call it. With the neck sleeve or the shield, why do you only have to wear that on the field when you're basically like during a timeout? Because like I think of like offensive, defensive linemen.
Yep.
So you're telling me I can take it off, then go hands to hands with somebody, and basically in most cases face mask to face mask with somebody, and not have any protection between my face and their face?
Do you know if the NCAA was also getting those?
I do not.
Plastic.
I do not. Yeah.
I know the NFL had talked about them with the coverings with small holes.
And if that's like, if college football is going to do that, then my point then becomes moot and cool. Players are safe.
I didn't know. I haven't heard anything about it. So.
I haven't either. Would have to do some research. Maybe someone in Twitch chat or YouTube after the fact has done that research that we did not do, because that's a thing I didn't even think about for college. But like, yeah, I feel like you can't police everybody. Like the conference can't police everyone, and there's some ownership on the school. Like for example, Louisville, where it's like college kids are going to be college kids, but at the same time, even at that sense, I go, why? Like to the players that did that, like, why are you so stupid? Like, you think about yourself. Think about the health of your teammates, the other ones there. Like, do you not care? Do you?
No, man, they're immortal. They can't
exactly. Young kids think they're Superman. I was once there. But on the other side, I'll bring this into it because this is kind of one flowing conversation, is the Big Sky, which is an FCS conference. So, like, they're D, I think they're D1, but they're not. Like FBS is up here, FCS is down here.
Yep.
They've moved their schedule to the spring. They're like, we're playing football in the spring, and they hope that the rest of the FCS conferences follow them. I saw this and I was like, you know what? I got to give you an applause because, like, we gave an applause to UConn for just canceling their season.
Yeah.
Like, to me, moving it in the spring is the least you can do right now.
I would agree.
The least you can do, because we're hoping by the spring that shit gets in order and that this is kind of...
I don't know how, but yeah.
I don't either. It's hopeful. Hopeful
is it
by
weird
next
to think
spring.
that it's just like, it's never going to happen?
I mean, this is just life now.
I can't imagine that.
I mean, we're like... Here's the other thing I thought about, and this goes away from sports a little bit, but you know what this virus has taught us? Most jobs can be done at home. Like, most jobs in, like, customer service and stuff where you, like, for example, I think of, like, my mom's job working for the electric company where all she does is talk to customers all day. Like, all right, you could do that from home. You don't have to have an office space where everyone's there. You can do everything you can do is through the phone or through the computer because everything is so linked now. But there is a part of me that thinks where we think the end is coming, but it's not coming kind of a situation. And we truly don't know how long this pandemic is going to last.
And we keep shooting ourselves in the foot and then acting surprised when it hurts. So, America.
Oh man, we brought kids back to high school and have them shoulder to shoulder with only some of them wearing masks because only some of them want to wear masks.
God, you saw the
yes,
Frank,
I saw his tweet too, which was beautiful.
That is so anger inducing.
Did you see his tweet, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. Because it's not a 5-minute head start, Dave. Nope. It's a 10 Mississippi head start is what the coronavirus gives you. Oh, man. It's beautiful. But, like, back to the sports part of it. Yeah. Do you think other FCS schools will follow the Big Sky? Or FCS conferences, I should say.
I hope so. I genuinely hope everybody understands how scary the situation is and that it's not worth the risk. It literally isn't. It's entertainment. Yeah. Entertainment can wait. I understand some of these kids are hoping to go professional and make a career and living out of this. Delay the season. There's no downside. I don't give a shit. Like, there's just, it's dumb. It's selfish, and it just shows their true colors as a greedy company rather than a school going for higher education to help people.
Well, and the thing that I kind of thing that I think about, and I'm looking up the article here because it was on ESPN, where it's basically, you mentioned earlier, where it's like, oh, it only takes one case for the season, like Rudy Gobert derailed the NBA season. But then there's a part...
He pretty much changed America, to be honest.
True. Like, that happened, and it was like, all right, we're shutting down.
When basketball shut down, the U.S. shut down. Like, it was literally with that action. So that's why I was just...
That's how powerful sports can be. But, like, you say, like, oh, it just takes that one case for things to change. I almost have the mindset of like, oh, unless you're the MLB, because there's
keep on trucking.
It's not that they keep on trucking. So
they do.
Both the it's not just that I'm saying. It's the fact that the Marlins and the Phillies are gonna play 10 games in like 5 days. Like, they're gonna have numerous doubleheaders, and it's like. How does that help two teams that got affected by coronavirus? Like, I find it, I want to say, like, the term I say is I find it funny, but it's not funny because it's coronavirus. The Cardinals, I said, like, oh, they expect to pick up their series today against the Cubs. New test. Series canceled.
Yep.
How do you, it's stuff like that I feel like maybe this is me thinking of the college system in a bad light. I think college would do the same thing. Maybe individual conferences would not, but the board of the NCAA would not shut down their season. If they did, I would commend them, but I would be shocked if they did. because I think they would be on the MLB side, not the NBA side.
I sadly agree with you.
And that's just where we are at with everything. But that's going to do it for today's show. Might have been a shorty, but a goodie. I know that I started my timer a little bit behind, so we might have been shorter than usual. But hey, we've been going over more than usual in these past weeks. The end of our first week of MVP Sports Live. Remember, if you're watching on Twitch, thank you. If you ever miss a show, you can catch it on YouTube MVP Sports. And if you ever want to catch the show live, you're watching on YouTube, you're like, oh shit, you do it live every Monday through Friday, 4:30 Central Time, twitch.tv/MVP vids. I want to thank Dave for being here with me all week. Next week, Dave's on vacation. We're going to have to work out the logistics with that and what we're going to do. If not, I will be here with someone or I'll be here with Dave, either or. Yeah. Whatever Dave wants to do, because I am behind him 100% as you take time on your vacation. But stay tuned on Twitch. We're going to be coming up with MVP games daily. But for everyone watching, as always, have a good day, everybody.